report.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was just going to defer to you.
Good evening and welcome to the school committee meeting of May 12th, 2021. As we start all meetings, I'd like to remind everyone this meeting is being broadcast live. It's also being recorded to use at a later date. Members of the public have physical access to this meeting. A live broadcast of the meeting is also available via live stream on WHCA TV. Watch Live TV Hanson, WHCT TV. Whitman-Hanson's Community Access Channel 98. Thank you. I'd also like to remind you that at the end of the meeting, we will be having no executive session for a change. So, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Also, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, before we get into our agenda, like
Yes.
a point of order, I think we have a great gathering here today. It must be a budget meeting, I'm not sure. But today is a special occasion. I think many people in the public know that this will be Mr. Hayes' last meeting as a school committee member after 18 years of service to our Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, and after 15 years as a chair. So we have some things that we'd like to acknowledge and give you from a variety of people here tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Small to start with a presentation.
All right. I guess you didn't save the best for last. I'm just going to stand right here. I don't need to be at the podium.
That's fine.
Bob, it's been a pleasure knowing you a good portion of my life. My wife since she was yay big, and to be involved and to be with you in the school committee for the past 9 years. It's truly been an honor and a privilege, and knowing the time, effort, and the amount of work that you put into this committee, I know you're going to sorely be missed. I do have a couple of things for you. One, not that you're into cars or trucks or anything,
No.
but we have a little
Thank you.
plaque for you that you can hang up. And, it says contains the names there. And because you're always asked, where's mine? Here's your map. Yes, I did. And we want to thank our state representatives and thank Allison Sullivan in particular for allowing this to happen. From the Office of the Governor, in honor of Robert Hayes, this flag of the United States of America was flown over our state capitol, dated April 27th, 2021. That is yours to cherish and have forever, along with the proclamation.
Thank
and
you.
I thank you for everything, not only yesterday, today, and probably in the future. Thank you.
As you all know, ladies and gentlemen, this was an 18-year team effort with many, many school committee members that came and went in the last 18 years, many people from boards of selectmen, many people that were town administrators and school committee members. They all came together at several times. Jeff just mentioned the budget. I wish he hadn't. Glad that's behind us. But all of this is how, from this brand new building 16 years ago, I would say it's roughly, Fred, am I right?
Something like that.
Being built, everybody has played a part. So I'd like to say, well, yeah, you know, I did this or I did that. I didn't. I was part of an 18-year team of people that put a tremendous, tremendous amount of work into everything that goes on here at Whitman-Hanson. They did it. We were not alone doing this. We had several partners, and as I said, tremendous amount of school committee members that put in tremendous amounts of time. I want to thank all of them from the bottom of my heart, because at the end of the day, it's not about anybody in this room, it's about everybody in this room. It's about all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. We're not done yet, though. We're not done. So briefly, certificate of appreciation awarded to Robert Hayes, as school committee chair, and appreciation for your commitment to the students and staff of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, 18 years of service. We have a nice plaque for you with your gavel that you can hang up in your office. Thank you. In your own Robert's Rules of Order.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Salvucci. I'm Vice Chair of the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Whitman. Our chairman could not make it tonight, and he sends his thank you very much for your 18 years. Same to one of our members of our Board of Selectmen, Brian Bezanson, couldn't make it, and he thanks you very much for your 18 years. And of course, we have two selectmen that are here, Randy LaMattina and Justin Evans, who had to come here tonight just to say thank you very much for what you did. And we have a proclamation here. It says, whereas Robert Hayes has led by example in his service to his community, volunteering immeasurable time and knowledge for 18 years as an elected member of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School Committee. And whereas Robert Hayes has served the town honorably, faithfully, efficiently, and with dedication, and carried out his duties in a manner that is credit not only to himself, but to the towns of Whitman and Whitman-Hanson Regional School Committee. Whereas Robert Hayes has accomplished on the school committee many and varied, from overseeing the construction of the new regional high school and guiding the school through the COVID-19 pandemic this year. Whereas the Board of Selectmen, on behalf of the citizens, does hereby recognize Robert Hayes and his contribution to the community. And it's there resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the town of Whitman, on behalf of its citizens, extends deep gratitude to Robert Hayes for his contribution to the community. And it's signed Kyle Kowalski, Chairman, myself, Dan Salvucci, Vice Chair, Brian Bezanson, Clerk, Randy LaMattina is a member, and Justin Evans as a member. And I want to thank you very much, Bob. Just on a personal note, Bob, I mean, you and I have known each other, what, 20, 30 years, whatever. Thank you very much. I mean, I know that you're not going to just walk away. You're going to get your hands into doing something for both communities. And you'll probably be appreciated in what you get accomplished. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. I'd like to welcome our Senator Brady, Representative Cutler, and Representative Sullivan, please.
Good evening. Alice and I were just talking. This is the first time I've been in this room since February of 2019. Is that what we figured out? I mean, 2020. 2020. So it's great to be back. It's great to see some of you in person. I'm sorry it's for this reason. Is there still time to change this, or sort of locked in?
Accepting write-ins on Saturday?
So no, we have a presentation we wanted to do. I've been coming to the Whitman-Hanson School Committee meetings for a few years now, and have seen a lot over my time, and I just can't imagine the Whitman-Hanson School Committee without you, Bob. You are the Whitman-Hanson School Committee. No offense, I'm sorry. The breadth and the commitment that you've given to this town and to both towns is just incredible. And I can't, in all the towns I represent, I can't think of anyone who's done more for our schools than you have. So I'm really sad to see you go, but obviously well-earned retirement. So I want to give my colleagues a chance to just say hello, and then we have a formal resolution that we're going to read.
Bob, I just want to say thank you so much for everything you've done. I know that, you're on the Hanson side of the Whitman-Hanson School District, but you have never been a stranger to reaching out and supporting the good cause here in Whitman-Hanson, and we appreciate everything you do. I know I was able to meet your family, and I know you have your grandchildren here as well, and to see, them here to support you is great. And hopefully one day, maybe one of them will be on the school committee, advocating just as hard as their grandfather did. So thank you. You will be truly missed. Like Josh said, the school committee meetings aren't, the way they'll be if you're not here, but to bigger and better things, and hopefully spend more time with the grandchildren, and the daughters will be excited to have Grandpa around to take care of them.
Thank you, Allison.
Of course.
And Bob, kudos is what friends and colleagues have stated, and I served on the school committee when I first ran for office back in 1995, and I know how important the children are, and you've taken the students in firsthand, and that's our future, and it's so important that we continue to do the best to fund our schools, and thank you for all your work on behalf of all the students and the people who work in the schools, the teachers and all the staff as well, so thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
And I wanted to note before we read it, I have a new legislative aide here, Cooper, if you could just wave, who I just wanted to note because he is a product of Whitman-Hanson Schools, and I believe was not born when you started serving on the Whitman-Hanson School Committee. Is that correct?
Actually, funny enough, I started kindergarten the same year that you first started.
So there you go.
So we're in this together.
And you taught him very well. He's done a remarkable job and a fine young man. So kudos. Anyway, I will get to the business. So we have a resolution here that was passed by the House and the Senate, officially read into the record in both the well of the House and the well of the Senate. Will permanently be part of the record of the Massachusetts State Legislature in its 400 years in existence. So we're going to do this as a team effort, I believe, right? So Allison, you're next. Okay. All right. The Massachusetts General Court, a resolution congratulating Robert Hayes on the occasion of his retirement from the town of Hanson. Whereas Robert W. Hayes will retire from the town of Hanson after having served the town with dedication, distinction, and professionalism for 27 years.
Whereas Mr. Hayes has begun his service to the Hanson community in 1994 as a volunteer in the youth sports program, including cheer and basketball, and serving as president of Hanson Youth Football. Mr. Hayes was first elected as school committee member for the Whitman-Hanson School District in 2003, and in 2006 he was elected to school committee chair, leading from the position for the next 15 years. And
I gotta see these young kids next to me. Whereas during his tenure, Mr. Hayes oversaw major renovations and improvements, including the planning, construction, and financing of the Whitman-Hanson Regional District High School, which then became a model and benchmark for other schools across the region. And whereas
Mr. Hayes has led the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District Committee through 2 superintendent appointments, has focused on bringing individuals into leadership positions who prioritize the students, and has helped manage the annual budgeting of the district's finances. And
whereas nearly for 3 decades, the students and faculty of the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District in the town of Hanson have achieved new heights in accolades in academics and extracurricular activities under the leadership and guidance of Mr. Hayes, therefore be it
resolved that the Massachusetts General Court hereby congratulates Robert W. Hayes on the occasion of his retirement from the town of Hanson and thanks him for his many years of service to the improvement of education in the town of Hanson and the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, and be it further resolved.
I get the back clean up. This is good. That a copy of these resolutions shall be forwarded by the clerk of the House of Representatives to Robert W. Hayes. This is signed, this was adopted in the House of Representatives on May 10th, 2021, signed by Ronald Mariano, Speaker of the House, Stephen T. James, Clerk of the House. It was adopted in the Senate in concurrence on May 10th, 2021, signed by Karen E. Spilka, President of the Senate, Michael Hurley, Clerk of the Senate, and it's offered by myself, Representative Josh Cutler, Senator Michael Brady, and Representative Allison Sullivan. So Bob, come on over.
Thank you.
We'll keep... Why don't you hold that?
Let it be known, you 3 passed the reading test.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you all. Thank you for letting us come forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sure. It seems like after all that, oh, Michael's got more to say. I just want to share, we're in the middle of our budget process at the state level. The House recently passed its budget. The Senate is beginning its budget process now. And we did, there were some positive developments in terms of Chapter 70 and local aid. And also we did have, working with Allison and I together, we did manage to sneak in a little extra money for Whitman-Hanson for some technology expenses, an extra $50,000.
Thank you.
So just wanted to share that good news.
Thank you very much. I know you're an advocate for all three.
You're going to co-sponsor, you're going to file all the amendments, right?
Thank you.
Bob, just before we get going, I just want to say thank you on behalf of all the students and staff here over the past 18-plus years. You've affected many lives on the court, on the fields, in the classroom. Your commitment to kids has been outstanding, even when it's hard. You seem to get it done. We're going to miss you, and I just want to thank you for taking the stroll in West Bridgewater down the hall and taking a risk on me. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Can we get a 5-minute break, Bob? Can you call for a 5-minute recess?
Without Michelle, I couldn't get it done. Michelle's the best. She's been a great, great advocate. She still is a great advocate for students and getting things done. And she's really, Michelle, thank you. Many years, great service. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you get a 5-minute recess so folks can say goodbye?
Okay. We'll take 5.
Thanks.
We're back underway here.
That was good. I knew they were coming last.
This is the May 12th meeting, 2021. Is anyone here for public comment? Okay, we're going to move on. I'd entertain a motion to approve April 28th, 2021 meetings. Minute?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. We're going to pass over the 17th minutes. I'd entertain a motion to pass, I'd entertain a motion for the March 3rd, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes. So this spring, early spring, we had the opportunity to look for an elementary school principal at Indian Head and a middle school principal at Whitman Middle. So let me just want the committee to know what the process was. George Farrow and myself scheduled appointments or meeting times with individual teachers per grade level and per discipline at both Whitman Middle and at Indian Head, along with the chairs of the search committees. Karen Downey chaired the Indian Head Search Committee and Bill Tranter chaired the Whitman Middle Search Committee. So we took input from teachers and staff members on what they wanted in a new leader. We then had Zooms with Indian Head parents and Whitman Middle School parents. I wish, I'll state publicly, I wish there was more parental involvement. We had very few, but we offered the opportunity for parents to speak, and a couple parents weren't able to make the Zooms and emailed me some of their thoughts. Karen brought in candidates with a team of Indian Head teachers, and Bill brought in candidates to meet with a team of Whitman Middle School teachers. Both candidates, or all the candidates, actually met with students as well. At the end of the interview process, Bill and Karen tabulated all the information that they had on the candidates and presented George, myself, and Lauren candidates as finalists. We interviewed those candidates live and in person, and I'm proud to announce to you and introduce them publicly for the first time. I feel like I'm in Hollywood for the first time ever in Whitman-Hanson. I'd like to present Paul Dupre as the new Whitman Middle School principal. Paul, if you could come up, please. Paul comes to us from Franklin, where he's currently a middle school principal. And Paul, I don't know if you want to add anything to the committee about who you are.
First of all, congratulations, Mr. Hayes, on your retirement, and well-deserved this evening, and I wish you a great retirement.
Thank you.
Paul Dupre, born and raised in the South Shore, on the South Shore in Weymouth, grew up in Weymouth, and kind of took a road when I was graduating high school into the business world. because that was the push, because Proposition 2.5, a lot of teachers were losing positions and counselors were pushing people into business. So I went to Bentley College for my undergrad, graduated from there with a marketing finance degree or concentration in finance, but couldn't avoid the call to be an educator. I just always loved working with kids, and I had some great teachers along the way that encouraged me, and I worked 9 years in sales and marketing and decided to give that up and answer the call. So I went and saw a 5th grade teacher of mine, and a job offer at the junior high school came across his desk, and he sent me up there, and they hired me on the spot. And a math teacher broke her hip the next day. I pushed her, but no. I'm just kidding. She was actually a high school math teacher of mine. And for the last 2 months of that year, I taught math for 8th grade and 9th grade. Following year, I went back as a building sub and taught chorus for an entire year because the teacher didn't show up. And luckily, my instrument is voice, so I did that. And then a math position opened the following year, and the rest is history. I taught math for 15 years, 7 in Weymouth, 6 in Needham, or 7 in Weymouth, math for 15 years, and that's 13, right? So, sorry. 8 in Weymouth, 7 in Needham, and then was an assistant principal in Plymouth, then a principal for 5 years in Weymouth, and the past 3 years I've been in Franklin, and I'm very excited to be coming to Whitman Middle School to be the new principal there. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I really look forward to being here.
Thank you, Joe.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Dr. Joelle Jocelyn, the new principal at Indian Head Elementary. Come on up, Joelle.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, school committee members. And it's an honor and pleasure for me to join the Hanson and Whitman School District. I've had a chance to meet some of my colleagues already, and I'll tell you I'm thoroughly impressed. I am currently a principal in Newton. Before that, I was in Fall River as a principal, and before that, I worked in the Boston Public Schools, and I'm 15 minutes away in Brockton, so that's a nice change. And I've had a chance to visit Indian Head, and I've been really impressed with the staff, and I'm really looking forward to making a difference in the lives of the kids, which is why we're in education. And again, congratulations, and looking forward to a wonderful collaborative relationship with all of you when I start. And I do want to say thank you to Jeff and George for being so welcoming, and the process was one of the most inclusive that I've been, where, as Jeff mentioned, I had a chance to meet the staff, several of my colleagues, sat with the children, had a chance to walk through the school, really get a good sense of the community that I was going to join. And I do want to give a big shout out also to Karen Downey, who's been just amazing in terms of her support and how she reached out and has been ever since helping me kind of navigate. And really, I'm excited and looking forward to joining that community and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
George, you want to give an update on summer programs, please?
So we are going to have a series of summer programs. I'm going to highlight some of them. Not every single detail is worked out yet. And then Dr. Jones will talk about the various programs at the high school. But for our elementary schools, we will have programs that center around, all of them will center around regression and help with students in math and ELA. They will look different in some of the schools. So if we start first with the Duval School, and if we start with the Indian Head School. Duval and Indian Head will have a program that's going to last about 6 weeks. It's going to start in the 1st of July. It is going to be a home-based remedial program for students students who are invited. All of the programs at the elementary school are going to be based on what happens with our year-end summative testing or our year-end assessment. And then what's going to happen is students will be invited to join. At both the Indian Head and at the Duval School, that program is going to look like online help for students who need it in by reading of books, by online work in ELA, and then online work on the iReady math program and their pathway. It'll be monitored by 2 teachers at each school, and they will be the ones in touch with the students and keeping them on track and moving on from there. Again, in the last week or the first week of August, which is the last week of the program, there might be some time to bring them in, have a celebration, do something of that nature, but that's what those are going to look like. When you go to the Conley School is going to have its traditional Camp Conley, and built into that program is also daily enrichment in math and ELA. So all programs will have that tenure and have that flavor as we look to attack regression. The cost for the the cost for the Duval program and the cost for the Indian Head program are free. It's being supplemented by the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District and some of the grant money that we have and some of the grants that we're looking forward to from Deci. I will also let you know that we are trying to qualify for one of the Deci Summer Enrichment Grant opportunities, and that will be at the Conley School. Every grant, there are 9 grants that are sort of put out by Deci for the summer, and we qualify for the one that's called the Deci Summer Enrichment Grant application. The grant, cost, there will be a cost to attend Camp Conley. However, it'll be offset by the same amount that both the Indian Head and the Duval are receiving from the district. But there will be a cost for parents because the program is also one that is enrichment, that is on campus, that is activities that are not just for remediation. When we move to the middle schools, we're talking with the middle school principals, and the middle school principals, we will be offering some sort of tutorial that also takes place of an at-home nature based on their end-of-the-year assessments. All of those details are not fully baked yet or fully cooked, but that'll take place. Aside from that will be the traditional summer sports camp offerings that happen at Hanson Middle School. I also want to let you know that all offerings at Camp Connolly and at Whitman Middle School will be available to students at the other schools also. There are a host of opportunities and there are a host of extended school year programs for our special ed department that Lauren will speak of, but now I'd like to ask Chris Jones to come up to explain the many offerings that are going to take place at the high school.
Thank you, George. We're going to be offering the traditional sports camps that we typically offer this summer, which is good news to get people involved. And our summer enrichment program that normally runs is running again, but we're doing something different with that to hopefully attack any regression coming up through the middle school grades that we see are from 8th to 9th grade transition. And by doing that, we're going to add 30 seats, or we're attempting to add 30 seats to that. That's grant funded. Along with that, we're also bringing up 2 counselors, one from each middle school to help with that transition because they know the students and can better serve how we can best serve those students or inform us how to do that. We will be running summer school again traditionally, and that is running at the same time or concurrently with the summer enrichment program because often they can bounce off of each other as far as help and services for students. We don't have all the details on summer school yet because we're waiting for the grades to come in at the end of this year, and that's when we'll know our numbers and be able to fill that out. We're also running a couple other extra academic camps. We're running the 3D camp again, and we're running science camp through the summer. So basically from the last week of June to the first week of August, the high school is going to be full of both sports camps on the fields and the academically oriented camps in the building, along with that summer enrichment or that new expanded summer enrichment program in summer school as needed.
Questions, anyone? Fred?
Are we providing devices for the students that are receiving services at home in both the elementary and middle and perhaps if there are for the high school?
When students are going to be offered the invite to attend, there is a form that goes home, and on that form it does ask if they need a loaned device, so that'll be taken care of. The one good thing about this also is that whatever work they're doing, they've done throughout the school year. So for the teachers that are going to run it and for the students, it's not something new. It'll be something that they've already logged into. It goes through their Clever, which is our online system, and so it'll be a familiar experience. But yes, if they need it, they will have access to it.
And are we purchasing any devices specifically for this? I know that's one of the allowed areas for the grants, and I know we're looking at, needing Chromebooks anyways.
Yeah, at this point in time, when all of the grant opportunities came out, I believe it was April 29th. So at this point in time, we will not be purchasing devices specifically for summer, but we have enough that we can make sure that the students who need them will get them. What we're targeting now is the Summer Enrichment Program, which is an in-person program, and that's what we're looking for. It'll service students from K to 5 for this grant, and then it will also service students from K to 5 at the other schools just for the regression aspect.
Hillary?
For the regression program, home base, so students will be working from home with it. So what happens if the student, so they're being invited, so a family can say thanks but no thanks?
Correct.
And then are we talking about students who have regressed so much so that they might not be at their grade level? And if that's the case, is there a backup plan? And I know I'm asking a question that we don't need to necessarily talk about right now, but is that like something, are we concerned about that? That parents might say, you know what, I don't want to do this, not maybe understanding that, you know what I'm saying?
Right, it's a twofold, it's a double-edged sword, because some of the students that we might be targeting are some students that we've had trouble hooking in the past.
Right.
So we do offer, so that's why we also offer Camp Conley, which is in person, which will have an academic component too.
Okay.
There will be the same money that's set aside per school, so that students of need, no matter what school they're at, can also partake in the in-person one.
Okay.
Depending on the responses that come in will depend on our next action from there.
Gotcha.
So we're hoping that we hook a lot of them, and if we don't, then we'll have to say, okay, where is that student on the continuum of learning anyway? Is he a student that's qualifies for services that maybe Lauren would be speaking about? Then that's one course of attack. Or is it a student that we just have to go find and reach? Then we'll have to get together, put our heads together to see. But it's going to be the window for our third annual assessment, or our third assessment for the school year, ends tomorrow for math, ends next Friday for ELA, or the HMH reading program. So from there, the data will be gathered so we can send out those invites.
Okay, thanks.
Dawn?
Question on, you mentioned it's an enrichment grant that's funding. Is that the Conley program that it's funding, or what is that grant funding?
So if you, I left my paper over there, but basically it's called the Deci Enrichment Grant application form. So the RFP hasn't come out yet, but what takes place is that, from what I've read and from the research I've done, is that it can be for one site, it can be for multiple sites. However, you have to have an in-person program. So the reasoning that we have is to have it at Conley is, previous to this coming out, this was going to be the opportunity we had anyway. There are applications that are at both Duval and that are at both Indian Head, also with the Conley students. So we're looking, it is up to $50,000 for one school site, based on how you fill out the application and what you're awarded. So it is based on the live in-person one that we can offer. Because, okay.
Yeah, so that was my question, because I read Commissioner Riley's weekly email, which was just 2 days ago on May 10th, and it talked about the summer school expansion and engagement matching grant. So is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah,
are we talking about the same thing?
Yeah, there's a plethora of the different ones you can do, like depending on your demographics, depending on what you're offering, there's different styles that you can pick under the realm of what Deci is offering for the summer. So
Okay, this one, right, and this one specifically refers to the piece of ESSER federal funds that came to the state, that it was that 10% that, you know, the state kept, and now they're going to distribute amongst grants. So I just want to make sure we're taking advantage of every grant that we can and applying for it. It sounds like that's what you're doing.
Yeah, this is definitely one that the state put out that's on the Deci website for that. And you can use ESSER funding, but you can use any type of funding there is. Because previous to this, we were going to do it out of our summer enrichment local budget if we had to, because we felt that that was needed. But now we have the ability to use this grant to do that same thing.
So realistically, I don't mean to interrupt, but realistically, this just came out today.
Right.
So this is a grant that George hasn't applied for yet. Right. Previous to that, we were doing all these things using some of our ESSER money already, just in case nothing else came.
Right.
So this is another opportunity for us to keep some of our funding and not apply for anything that was actually out there for us.
So all that's happened so far is that I think it's $70 million that the state has freed up in order to help school districts run these grants. All that's happened so far is it's an interest survey.
Right.
So if you want to be notified when the RFP or the official request for proposal comes out, sign your name, sign your email, put a phone number, and they'll let you know. Right now, as it stands, it looks like, if my memory serves from this afternoon, it looks like by the 21st, they will release the RFP, and it looks like it'll be due by June 4th. And then based on a sliding scale or whatever they have available, they'll tell you what the cost is. I mean, they'll tell you what you're awarded.
Right, so as I read it also, it does say it's non-competitive matching grant. So it's good to hear it's non-competitive. Hopefully we can qualify for it, and matching in the sense that we would have to expend funds and they would also match it. So perhaps you're referring to one program at Conley, but if we receive this, could we potentially offer it at other locations? And if we are...
Yeah, we could. I mean, however, as of today, when we began, these were the programs we already had in place running. So we haven't yet proceeded past, if this is available, do you want to do it? Because these programs also require the staff to do it. So, possibly.
Right, okay.
I think I was next. Do we have any provisions in place for families that are invited to the Conley program, but perhaps don't want to go through the entire Conley camp, or they don't want to expend the funds, so that they can participate without going through to the camp itself?
If you're a Conley student?
Yeah.
Just only a Conley student?
Yeah.
Yes, you can take part in the enrichment aspect of it. Okay. And then there are funds we have set aside the same amount of funds previous to this grant coming out today. We have set aside the same amount of funds for each building so that we can make sure that anyone who's participating in it and needing it as a remediation or a piece of an academic piece would be able to do so at no cost.
Cool, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you,
You want to turn it over to Lauren? Lauren, can you talk about summer programs, please? Special ed. Thanks, George.
Good evening. So as usual, we will be running our extended school year program here at the high school this summer. Extended school year programs are for our special education students who qualify for an extended year of services based on their disability. Our programs will start on July 12th, and we have a whole bunch of different programs of varying lengths. So our integrated preschool program is a 3-week program that will be running here. We have tutoring programs at the elementary, middle, and high school level. We have 4-week programs for our students that are in substantially separate programs, and we have a 5-week program for our students with autism that are in our autism programs. We have a variety of related services that we will be offering the students, from speech, physical therapy, occupational therapy. There will be counseling support, behavioral support. We have kids with job coaches that will be going out to job sites this summer and continuing their vocational work. So we'll be busy here for the summer. ESY will be in person this year. We're planning an in-person program. However, for our students on IEPs who have chosen to be virtual this year due to medical needs or something like that, if they request to continue their extended school year services virtually, we will be accommodating that. But the majority of students will be here in person this summer.
Questions, anyone? Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, I'm looking for the committee to vote to reappoint Dr. Belcher as our school physician, or our district physician.
So
I'd
moved.
entertain that motion.
Second.
Somebody second it?
Dan, I motion, Dan second.
Okay. Discussion? Everybody understand what we're doing? Dr. Belcher's just being reappointed as our school physician?
Is he
All
here?
those- all
I'm
those
sorry,
in
Is he here tonight? No. Okay.
No. All those in favor? Unanimous,
Thank you. Mr. Tuffy, can you give us a year-to-date budget report, please?
I feel like I was up here not too long ago giving you the same information. The good news is that our budget and overall is in good shape. All the non-salary line items look about where we would expect them to be. I mean, there are some trends that we've seen. For instance, our cost of copies is actually less than we expected. And it's not a big surprise, I think, given that we saw it was so much less last year, more this year than last year, but we've had more school this year. And so when we talk about budget, I think the budget number we put in for next year was based not on last year, but the previous year when we had a full year's worth of school. So overall, the non-salary line items seem to be making sense. There's still some surprises. Last month I mentioned unemployment. That's starting to sort itself out. When we started the year, we had set aside $50,000 to pay for unemployment claims. Before we started the year, we thought it was going to look something more like $90,000. And up until quite recently, when the bills started to come down as the state has straightened out the fraud issues that came up and is starting to recover monies, the numbers have started to fall down and make some sense. At this point, it looks like that number is going to come out to be more like $100,000. We had 50 set aside. We've already paid 17. It's a number that we were sort of expecting, so we think that's going to work itself out as well. We will see. We don't have to pay the bill until June, so we're starting to get the benefit of those much smaller claims as they come through. In terms of the salary line items, if you look at our reports, they look distorted. And the reason for that is, even though we're running a remote school, we often call it our sixth school, we have tried to report the salary expenses within the buildings that those students came from, so we can keep track of what those expenses were. It also has to do with reporting lines for the teachers, evaluations, and teacher of record, and who fills out what evaluation forms on students and grades. And of course, as I think the committee knows, our plan all along is that we would be using grant funds to pay for that expense, because it was totally unbudgeted and unexpected when we started the year. At this point in time, we're still waiting for Plymouth County to start to send us our money, although we've seen some checks, and I just last week got some inquiries from them to answer some questions, nothing major. So we responded to that. We've also last week filed for the $200,000 earmark that Representative Cutler had put in for us, and next week I expect to be filing for the $200,000 that Senator Brady had put in. After that, we will approach the towns and see if they have access to any additional CARES money. I have no idea if they do or not. We've all read the articles in the newspaper, I'm sure, that talks about excess funds. Whether that affects Plymouth County or not, gosh, I don't know. We'll explore that, and then the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, and myself will be sitting down to go over where we are for numbers, and then start to look at what we will need from ESSER to backfill those numbers for salaries. So all in all, I feel a whole lot better about how we're doing than I thought I was going to feel last September when all I saw were notes from Michelle saying, "We've hired somebody." And I kept thinking, but I've run out of slots. Unfortunately, we hadn't run out of students with the demand for a remote learning experience that we were required by law to provide. So that is sort of the quick update on where we are with the budget. Certainly, we will have a meeting towards the end of the year when we do some moving between line items, as we traditionally have done, because while we always record the expenses in the category where the expense was. So sometimes the budget doesn't quite match the actual expense, and that's when we have to true up at the end of the year.
Just for a point so anybody watching can understand, a lot of people don't understand that the employer pays a portion of the unemployment.
Well,
and that's where this cost comes from. Whenever someone goes on unemployment, whether it's private sector or public sector, we pay a portion. So it's not like that just goes away. It doesn't. And the more unemployment you have, the higher it escalates, and it brings your rates up, and it's paid quarterly.
Well, and Mr. Hayes, if I could add a little more texture to that, in the public sector, we pay from $1. There is no unemployment insurance. So if somebody is getting a benefit of $300 a week, we write the check for $300. We do not participate in an insurance program or pay premiums. That's the good news. In a year like this, where we are dealing with really two things that happened. One was the issue that had to do with fraud, and we all read about that in the newspaper, and the state has been cooperative and worked their way through that. The other issue, frankly, had to do with the 1/12 budget and the fact that we had to issue RIF notices, reduction in force notices, to people. So come June 30th, they were able to legally apply for unemployment, and that was the time when they got their unemployment check plus $600. And in fact, some of those people did not immediately come off of unemployment. Those are the recoveries that the state's making on our behalf. And then, as I think most people know, there's a look-back period when you apply for unemployment. They say, how much did you make over the last, I think it's 18 months, if memory serves me right, and who paid that? Well, we had some people who had worked for us and voluntarily left, and then they lost their other job because of of the massive layoffs that happened, we owned a portion of that claim. They tended to be relatively small in most cases, but we owned a portion of it. And when you get enough people that have relatively small claims, it adds up. So that's how we got in the position of seeing these fabulously high numbers.
And John, as a contrast, I'm on the budget subcommittee for Pilgrim Area Collaborative, sorry, and we do pay the premiums. And, you know, every year that we're looking at the budget, we're wondering if that's the right thing to do and so forth. But I think because of the smaller organization, that is probably the smarter thing for us. So we'll pay the you know, the insurance premium and whatever. I don't know if it's just a one-year cost or what, but we budget obviously for the year.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
One question.
Chris?
So have we done a cost benefit kind of compare of how much would it cost us in premiums versus how much would it cost us in what we're paying? Have we looked at that in the past, or like if there was an ability to get insurance, have you had a chance to look at that at all? This might not be the time to look at it. But.
Well, I say I haven't looked at it here. I will tell you that I've looked at it in other places, and many other people have looked at it and found it not to be to our advantage. Okay. And I suspect if we were to look at this over the long run, what we'd find is this year was an anomaly compared to most years. When we talk about, I mean, I think the largest layoff we had in recent memory was 19 people.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, 19
that was
is not that large a number.
Right.
And when you're in the insurance pool, we're all in the same pool, and so. Again, we've probably all read the same information about the large increases that we're looking at for employers who are paying on insurance premiums. But again, not certainly a reasonable question, something to be looked at. But if history tells us anything, it's going to be this is the year you got stuck. Sort of like every so often it just snows so much it never stops and you get stuck.
Don?
We have revolving accounts for food services and full-day kindergarten and athletics. Would you have an update on those or a report?
I don't have an update with me. I can tell you in broad strokes. So food services is sort of an interesting one. It is a program that has traditionally paid its own way. It has not had a subsidy from the district in I don't know how long. It goes back a long way. Yeah, we used up most of their, if you will, retained earnings, their surplus that they had last year, going into this year, and we were bleeding throughout this year. Now, a couple of things have happened. Through the federal government, the state has extended the free and reduced lunch program, so we are getting additional funding. We recently found out that we would be getting some additional funding, sort of retroactive to what had happened, and that will be coming sometime in June. So we will apply that to that program. Additionally, we were part of a group action against poultry providers, and I think it went back 10 years. I mean, it was a very long time ago, and we now found out that it was decided, and we're going to be getting some money. I mean, it's not hundreds of thousands, but I think it's tens of thousands. I've forgotten the exact number. So when we add all of that up, I think the food service account is probably going to have a deficit, but not a horrible deficit. And the plan is that we will work our way through that since it is a profitable program. Full day K, we have actually been subsidizing that program for some time, and we know that. I don't think it's going to be horrible, but we will again have a subsidy there. Pre-K is a program that I think we talked about briefly last year, and something that we really need to look at that program in greater depth since it's a required program. We need to provide a pre-K program for students who have special needs, and really we also need to provide peer models, and those are the people who are paying a tuition rate. Overall, it's not horrible. From the last time I looked at it, it wasn't horrible. Food service was really our problem child, and the state's helping us out with that, and a long ago forgotten class action suit is helping as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime John gives good budget news, that's good, especially at all that hiring that we did in August and September to put forth that remote program that I think was very successful for our students. Just quickly, if folks don't know, I just wanted to publicly thank the residents of Hanson for supporting the regional school district's budget and the assessment to Hanson in both the in an override situation and not an override situation. So thank you to the folks in Hanson. I know you have some big elections coming up this Saturday. Get out and vote. But our assessment was approved twice, which made all of us who were there for the school district very happy and excited. And I just want to publicly thank the members, the residents who came out in Hanson and spoke for us and voted for us. And thank you again. The folks, the selectmen did pass over some of our capital items. And I think some of those capital items will be revisited in their special town in the fall. So I'm not as concerned. I think we're in a good spot capital-wise in Hanson. Any questions about that?
Anyone?
As far as my evaluation, in your packet is a rubric for the superintendent's evaluation and the actual document for the evaluation right from Deci. Last, I think, summer, we got a little confused. There are two rubrics on the Deci website. One is the one that you have in your packet that has been used by superintendents, and one is a pilot that was supposed to be piloted in 1920, and districts were supposed to report if they were going to engage in the pilot. That pilot, I don't know where it has gone. The website has not been updated, and I have not heard anything from my state association or from Deci whether or not that pilot was done, because we were in the middle of COVID hit in the spring of 2020, so I don't know if people use that pilot or not. It's a much more detailed pilot or a rubric, and if that's the rubric that goes through, I would like to have a conversation in the spring with the committee to say to go over that rubric and what's going to be expected of me as the superintendent prior to the evaluation. The rubric that is in there now is the rubric that I gauge my year by. So you have that. I would ask that on Monday when we do our reorg, we set a date with the new chair so that we can have the evaluation publicly. I would hope it to be in the June 9th meeting, but that'll be up to the committee on Monday. As this goes, Michelle and I are working on a Google link or a Google Doc where you can see my evidence. Right now, it's all in our shared folder, and we're just moving it to the Google Doc. And that Google Doc will be a live document, so I can continue to pump things in there for you guys. And if you have questions, if you're looking for something specific, I'll get it to you. So we're in the process. You'll have that link probably by the end of the week. And again, on Monday, we can talk about an evaluation date. And then if you have difficulty accessing that Google link for my evidence, we can talk about it then.
And for everyone's information, if the committee wanted to change this, this is a guide from Department of Education, Secondary Education. You don't have to use this. You can modify it, change it, and come up with something that, if you like it better. As for those that are new on the committee, people watching, this used to be a 25-page report that unless you worked beside the superintendent, you could not fill it out properly. They went to this type of format because so many people were not filling the old one out. But you can modify this if the committee wants to look at it, maybe get a subcommittee in the future and say, we like it, we don't like it, work with the superintendent. You can change it. That's what I'm saying. That's all.
Chris had a question, Bob.
Go ahead, Chris, I'm sorry.
So just to clarify, is the expectation that this committee will complete the evaluation, or is the expectation that the committee that's composed?
The expectation is this committee seated for this 2021 year does it. Even if people are gone, they submit it to the new chair.
Okay. So I guess what I'm just thinking out loud here, but wouldn't it make sense for if these 10 people are going to be the ones to do the evaluation, shouldn't we set the date with all 10 of these people here right now so that there's no confusion? I mean, I know Bob's leaving and who knows what else happens, but with that, because we may have people that will not be at the next meeting that are going to be responsible to do this. So I'm just thinking.
Correct. So the chair can set the date that the new chair will receive the evaluations by.
Does that
Somebody want to make a motion that it should be done by the 9th?
Well, that's the meeting. The meeting is going to be on the 9th, so it should be done before that, so.
When are you thinking, Jeff?
So usually,
What was the date we talked about contractually making sure we were done by?
it should be done in, like my contract, it's June. It's the June meeting. So that gives me over the summer to look at things and present goals in September, not October. So
Is the June meeting scheduled?
June meeting's June 9th. June 9th.
And
Can I ask?
it might not be a bad idea, because I've said this from year to year to year, this is an awful time of the year to be doing an evaluation the week before a new committee could be impaneled. In the old committee, because in previous years, sometimes a few members left and we got nothing. So you got like 8 evaluations when you should have got 10 because they weren't here anymore. You might want to think of, that's something we have discussed for years and never changed, moving it back a month. In other words, if you could do it in May, or in April, that way everybody is still impaneled with the committee and you've got a little bit of room to say, hey, Chris, where's your evaluation? Well, like me, say I didn't fill it out.
We could do that for next year too. The fact that, the reason I brought this up is because I was evaluated in September the first 2 years, and I wasn't able to get goals out until late October, and to then have an April deadline, that's 6 months. And I mean, this was a unique year anyway, so anything the committee wants to do, I'm flexible with. If you want to have it on June 9th, that'd be great. If we need to have it in July, that's okay with me too. I just want to be evaluated before September. You know, that's all, before school starts.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that all evaluations are submitted electronically by June 4th, 2021 for this year.
Second.
Discussion?
Can I just make a suggestion?
Go ahead, Hillary, I'm sorry.
I'm just going to make a suggestion based on what happens to teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So for teachers, we have specific dates that all of our evidence needs to be uploaded by so that the evaluators can look at. And there is a specific date that the evaluations must be filed by. Obviously, teachers are different than the superintendent, but I think as a committee, obviously this is just my first year, but that could be something we're working towards moving forward, having specific dates so that we know town elections are generally the second Saturday in May. We know that there might be new school committee members, but if we have these dates, it'll give you a heads up so that you know you've got to have some evidence in. And you know, same thing, it's fluid. Evidence and education is fluid, so it doesn't all stop on June 1st if that's the date it needs to be there, but at least you have a heads up as well. That I think should be something that we look towards doing in the future. But
Sounds good to me.
Dan?
Yeah, I thought we discussed this last year. We were supposed to be doing these in April, so it was done before June, especially with the elections at the end of the month. That way there, the entire committee has to pass it in before the election day. I thought we discussed that last year. I thought that we were going to implement that this year. I don't know if COVID pushed that off or not, but we had great discussion last year about that.
Was it last year or was
We've
it?
had a couple of years discussion about it. We just never
Wasn't
got-
it this year, only a month or two ago that we discussed it? Thought that's when we were.
Probably September, October, when we were late on just last one. So.
Right, but we had discussion about it when we were speaking of Jeff's contract. That was when we were discussing, and that was obviously too quick to be able to get that done.
So once we get this one done, I think we put it in play, the expectation of goals, the expectation of a formative, and then benchmark, target, time, helps me out tremendously, and it'll help you.
Anyone else? Chris?
Just to clarify Fred's motion, I know we're submitting them electronically by June 4th.
By June 4th.
Motion to where?
To Michelle.
So I have a motion and a second on the floor.
I have a
Any
question.
further discussion,
You-
Dawn?
Sorry. You were going to upload the evidence, you said, to the Google Drive?
So, yes.
Is there a time that,
So hopefully by Friday it is. All my evidence that I have is now in a shared folder, so now it's just converting it over. And I think once we start the Google Doc, it'll be there, and that way there it's already set. So when I get it, I just pump it in there. So it's not in a shared file.
they don't, Jeff, they don't have like a teach point for superintendents.
No.
They don't have a something like that.
So we're moving to Teach Point this year, so I don't know as much about Teach Point as Baseline Edge, but not in Baseline Edge.
Okay.
So there might be something like that, but I'm not sure.
Anyone else? I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else, Jeff?
No, just going to new business, it's my principals. So if you don't mind me just jumping right ahead.
Go ahead.
So the principals in this most unique year have put together school improvement plans for next year that will need to be voted on by the committee. I'd invite the elementaries up first. Darlene, Gary, and Karen.
Good evening. Thank you, everybody. On behalf of all of the principals, we do want to say congratulations to Chair Hayes, and thank you for all of your years of service. We know that for all of you, this is a sacrifice to sit here, and we so appreciate the support that you've given to our schools, our families, and our communities. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
So we'll start you off with the elementary school improvement plan. I know you all have copies of it in your packets. So I'm just going to quickly go over the format of it, and then I'll give you the highlights for elementary. Middle school will go next, and then high school. Our school improvement plans are obviously based on the district strategic plan, and we use the pillars you'll see in each of our plans that we've attached the strategic plan to the front of that, and then noted our impacts on the back. So we're using still the same four hallmarks of success that we've used before. That's Excel, excellence in social emotional learning, it's the academic pillars, it's safe and secure schools, and then this year we added community engagement. So at the elementary level, you're going to see some of the same areas that we've been working on for quite a while now, and given the year that we've had, there's still important things for us to be working on. So you're going to see continued work in social emotional learning, both with students and with staff. You're going to see an expansion of that role of the adjustment counselors, and thank you so much for supporting that. We don't know where we would have been without them this year. And if they're watching, I'm sure they're not real excited about an expansion of their roles because they've been ridiculously busy this year. You'll see responsive classroom is still in there. One of the things that we've missed as elementary principals is having our all-school meetings. We haven't been able to do that this year, just physically with the kids all in one spot. So we're really looking forward to hopefully getting back to that next year and keeping our responsive classroom morning meetings, all-school meetings, and the tenets of that alive. And then new you'll see this year is diversity, equity, and inclusion professional development for staff. And also using that lens when we're in 504 meetings, IEP meetings, or in our school-based STAT or student teacher assistant team meetings. In our second hallmark, the system of teaching and learning, again, you're going to continue to see, you've heard George and Jeff talk about the assessment system. We're assessing kids 3 times a year, looking at that data, using our professional learning communities with teachers to review the data, look at what kids need, and close those gaps that we know we anticipate for the fall. Continue the alignment of both vertical and horizontal curriculum, and also our technology initiatives will continue those. New for us this year is something we're very, very excited about and something that we see is desperately needed. The intervention system that you've heard George talk about, where we have interventionists and looking, again, back to that PLC model to look at what kids need and how we close those gaps for kids. So we're really excited about that. Safe and secure schools, again, kind of getting back to some of the things that we've lost this year. Security protocols like ALICE training and the tabletop exercises for staff, getting back to those things. A new piece you'll see in our plan is to develop a cyclical plan for the implementation, practice, and review of those safety protocols. So just like we've done with curriculum, where we're looking at different areas each year, we want to do that with safety and security as well. And then finally, the community engagement piece is new for us this year. We are looking forward to getting back with our PACs and our PTOs in person. We know we have some rebuilding to do with that, food pantries and the senior center. Looking forward to making those connections again. And then also, one of the things that we've talked about at length as principals is a welcome packet for our families. We have an increased English language learner population, and really making sure that they're welcome and that they know who to go to, what to ask for, and making sure that they're comfortable in our communities. Darlene, Gary, and I have worked closely on that. So you'll see that our plans look a lot alike, but the details of how that will be in each school might look a little differently depending on which school you're in and the personalities and things like that. So any questions for the elementary?
Questions, anyone? Fred? Then Chris?
A couple of things. If we look at 1.5, look to establish a uniform start time that is appropriate for all students. And I think this is probably district-wide, not just an elementary initiative. There is currently in the Joint Committee on Education a bill to have a study for start times. Once that study, and it should go through without much issue because there's no real financial impact. Once that's done, there may be a mandate of start times. And once those start times are mandated, it may come with some funding as well. So I want to
As
make
you know,
sure
we would
that,
welcome that, just for our teachers to work together at the same time, and
Yeah.
we would really welcome that. It
so
limits us
something
what we
like
can
that
do.
may be nice. I see 2.4, utilize student data to evaluate and adapt curriculum and instructional practices to ensure equity for all students, including the adoption of universal full-day kindergarten. If we could establish the subcommittee that I've been speaking of to work with the towns to try and find a way to fund. Currently, within the budget, there's a $2 million line item that would provide grants to the districts, and I think there's 30 or 31 that currently do not have full-day K to help with startup costs. You know, so perhaps if we were able to utilize something like that, and in talking with our member towns, we could finally, see if we can get something pushed forward.
Another thing we would welcome.
Of course, it's ultimately up to the taxpayers, but, it is something that we've been reminded this year that we do sorely need.
We'll be ready when it's time. We'll be ready.
In year 5.5, engage the public officials in the plan. I mean, we've got to get everyone on board and get everyone pushing the same bus up the hill, so to speak.
Yep.
So I applaud you for that. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, did you have a
Anyone else?
question?
Chris?
Karen, could you give me an example of, what it would look like for your, under Hallmark 4, community engagement? It says improve family engagement by offering curriculum-oriented.
Oh, thank you. Yep. So one of the things that we've talked about, you've seen it in bits and pieces in different schools. We've had a curriculum night, a kindergarten curriculum night. You might have seen at each of the schools where the kindergarten teachers are there, and they have parents come in with the kids or without the kids and show them, this is what your child will be reading by the time they leave kindergarten. These are some of the instructional resources that we use. It's really just a really nice opportunity for teachers, for parents to sit in the classroom with the teachers and get a piece of what the curriculum looks like, what a kindergarten day looks like. We've done it for a half day and our full day kindergarten kids. We've done it at different schools, have offered different programs throughout the year. We did something a few years ago called Conley University, where teachers offered up a different class on different things. So one teacher taught I think we had a yoga class, and we had a morning meeting class. We had a math class and an MCAS class. So parents could go and sit down and actually have an experience of what the kids were going through. So we all talk together and think that that might be something that would be really cool to offer to everybody universally. So that's really what that's all about, to try to implement that. There are, of course, contractual obligations and things like that that we have to consider, but something that we would really like to see happen.
That's great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Fred?
Anybody else?
And jumping on Chris's back for a moment, knowing that in something I believe we may have spoken about 7, 8 years ago, a program for parents for homework that gives them an idea of what their kids are bringing home and resources that they can use in order to help their children. I mean, for some of us, if it's a grandchild per se, you've been out of it for so long, you
Right.
just don't remember.
We are very fortunate in the programs that you have purchased, put forward to us in the budget and purchased, that there is a home component for each of those so that teachers can actually share a short video of a math class. We're still working through some of the ELA components, but there are parent letters and things like that that we're really starting to use more and more that are in different languages. But I think I think we all agree that we want you to read with your child, practice your math facts, and let us do the teaching. You do the practice at home, but if we can get parents to do that 20 minutes a night with reading and do some math facts the other 20 minutes, we would be thrilled. We would be thrilled.
That's cool. And don't ever stop game night, although I lost once and we don't want to tell anyone that.
Dawn?
Thank you for including the community engagement piece. And I know there are parents on the council. Can you share what their input was and what those parents are asking of the school improvement plan?
Well, given the year that we've had, I think parents really just want kids back in school, and they want to give back the reins of education back to the professionals. I think that's really the big cry. And also to just know what do I need to do to help my child be successful? And I think we come back to that all the time. I really appreciate the fact that our parents want to leave education to us. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a trained accountant. So when I do my taxes, I'm always worried about that. So I think parents feel the same way. They want to do the things that they can do. Let me read. Let me practice math facts. Parents know how to do that. We'll give them things like a lot of the teachers do. Ask this, like at dinner time. These are things to ask about. And so these are the things that we did in class today. Here are some questions you can ask your child. So they love those things. They love that kind of communication. But I think really to keep it simple, practice at home and let us do the instruction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you,
Thank you,
Karen.
folks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Middle school, Gary, Bill?
Good evening. I was going to make Kerry do it. I figured I'd bail her out. So, first of all, I'd like to thank Karen for kind of explaining the process, because the principals all work together to develop their school improvement plan, but looking at an eye of the district plan and then how we would take those points and work on them together. So we're not doing something totally different than Whitman Middle or Indian Head or the high school. We've kind of all worked together and tried to make them fit within our buildings and the resources that we have available. And one of the big things, a couple of big things. One is the social emotional piece. And we're always looking to be working with our staff and training them on dealing with the social emotional piece of the students, but also, especially as we saw this year, dealing with the staff and some of the staff issues. And we've done a lot. We still need to do a lot more. And who knows what next year is going to look like as people start to digest what we've been through and try to get back to a normal, and what issues that brings up. We've pretty much had 3 different school years this year. We had a hybrid, then at the middle school we had a live stream, and then we went full in. So we've had 3 different school years and transitioned and got people doing a whole bunch of different things. So, and they went with the flow, but they're going to crash and burn come June 16th, and we're going to have to be ready to emotionally support them come August 30th when they come back. One of the things that we've looked at Hanson Middle, where Whitman has the TLC room, we're looking at a transition room for students coming back from hospitalizations or who have a difficult time coming into school, who might just need time out of the classroom. So we've been working with Lauren to develop a transition room. The funding was approved, and we're starting to look at hiring another adjustment counselor to handle that room with an aide, so that we can deal with that. What we were finding is students would come in, they'd spend time with the guidance counselor, the adjustment counselor, and take up a lot of their time. And they have other kids to see, but there's no place for this kid to go. And now we're going to have a place where we can kind of ease them back into the classroom so that they don't have to be hospitalized again or put out or call mom to say, your kid's not making it today. We've got a place so that they can work through it, maybe start doing a little work, and then we can get them back into the classroom. The academic piece on Homework 2, we're really looking at a whole lot of different things that we're going to need to do in terms of the regression piece in the curriculum. Why we've been looking at the curriculum over the course of all this time is now going to change a little bit, because now we have to figure out where the gaps are, how we're going to meet those, the needs, and develop remediation programs to kind of fill that in and move kids along, while at the same time providing the regular curriculum. So we don't want kids to fall further behind. So, you know, we're looking at that. The other big thing is looking at how we can start to put foreign language back in and develop a plan so that we can do it fiscally responsible and make it work within the schedule, make it work within the space that we have within the buildings. Carrie and I have talked. We've come up with some things that we can maybe start to look at, but it's got to be at least a year process before we can bring a plan back to you folks to vote on. Looking at data, you know, as George had said, using the end of the year benchmark tests, taking the results that we'll get from MCAS, doing a benchmark test in the fall. The NASSP came out with a thing today that we can apply to do a survey to parents and staff, and to get an idea of what needs they see for kids. So we can take that over the summer. They'll send us, we'll give out the surveys when they send them to us. It's electronic. They collect the data. They give us a report of what the issues are. They also give us suggestions on how to address it, and then we can tie that back in with the benchmark data from the end of the year, the beginning of the year, and the MCAS test, so that then we can revamp how we do extension to use that as the remedial block to provide the interventions that we anticipate. Safe and secure schools, you know, up until recently, nobody was shooting anybody with COVID, and now all of a sudden that's starting to come back to the forefront. So we need to focus again on that with the safety protocols with our staff, students, and looking at desktop type of scenarios to work through with them. And then community engagement, as you notice, the welcome packet is something that we all felt is important for people moving into the district to be able to get information on where they can get things in the community, get things from the school district to make their transition to Whitman or Hanson easier. I'll let Carrie add whatever she needs to.
Thanks, Bill. The only other two additions that are unique to Whitman Middle School are under the safe and secure school environments and working with the MSBA and building committee to update and advance learning opportunities through the building project that we're fortunate to be going through at Whitman Middle School. And also under the system of teaching and learning, the plan includes information around revamping the co-teaching model. So that's something Lauren has supported through the budget this year and put forward in order to help with our inclusion offerings at Whitman Middle School.
Questions, anyone? Mr. Boyce?
Yes, Bill, you mentioned transition room, and I know when we toured the schools, Karen, is it your school that has one? Or Darlene, I can't remember now.
Indian.
Oh, right, that's what it was. Right. I mean, I just thought it was very well done and really, from everything we heard about it, was terrific. And really more of a comment than anything, but.
Yeah, we have a good space that was our autism room, and those kids to transition to the high school. So we have a real nice space that with a few minor tweaks, talking to Ernie, we might be able to provide an office and a calming room, as well as a space for students to do work. Yeah. And also, talk to the counselor in a private area.
Great, thank you.
Dawn?
I'll ask the same question. Can you share what parent input you got on the school improvement plan, or what parents are asking for when you have these meetings?
Honestly?
Yes.
Very little.
Okay.
It's very difficult to get parents to come. So some come to one meeting, some don't come to another. We've had some where we've had to cancel because they weren't coming. Today we had a final meeting. I had one. So.
Okay.
But they've all had input. It's just they're not all there at the same time. So they'll call and we'll discuss things that we're talking about. And,
okay.
But it's
so do you feel like they, because there are some parents on here, so maybe it's a case that they just couldn't, the timing wasn't right for them, or is it?
No, because they come.
In the beginning?
They come at different times. They're in and out. It's
okay.
whatever comes up. And, we send emails reminding them. I don't know what your...
I had success with the parents that were on the council coming to the meetings.
Okay.
So we had four meetings. We did not hold the meeting that is on there as anticipated for this past Monday because we were able to vote on the improvement plan the previous meeting. In terms of coming up with the kind of the focus areas, if you will, or the Whitman Middle School impacts, we spent time kind of just going through the district strategic plan and talking about things that were happening at the middle school, and so that they were on the same page in terms of the staff that were on the council as well in putting those goals forward.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. You're going to see a video presentation now.
I was just
from the
going
high
to say,
school.
I had a phenomenal video made for this, but my esteemed colleagues have done such an excellent job, I can't show it to you. They already took care of it. So I'm sorry. Trust me, it was the best thing you've ever seen. Like you've heard before, that we work together, and so some of this is repetitive, but you got a copy of it in your packets. Just a couple of things I want to point out. If you look at all the hallmarks for success, it's basically the high school right now is at a moment where we're looking at tightening up all the things that we're doing while still expanding and moving forward. It's kind of, we move forward and take some risks to do some good things, and then we kind of look back and tighten them up once we've done them. And so that first one, when you're looking at the hallmark of Excel or social emotional learning, we're looking at expanding our mindfulness programming with additional PD. Right now we have multiple classrooms that use mindfulness before their classrooms. They do mindful minute and things like that. We're looking at expanding that. That was what we had been planning on doing this year, but it was difficult with the virtual aspect, and when COVID hit, that kind of slowed it down. The other piece is we have quite a few support programs in place, but we're looking at solidifying the transitions between them, and we're looking at clarifying like your entry criteria and your exit criteria, so that we make sure we're identifying the students who are most needy for those programs and making sure that they get their needs met and then they're exited out so their needs can continue to be met and they can grow back in the general population, so to speak. But the second one, the pre-K to 12 system of teaching and learning, boy, COVID's taught us a lot about teaching and learning and assessment and how we look at it. And so we're right now starting to have discussions around what teaching and learning looks like and what it can look like, and what assessment looks like and what it can look like moving forward with virtual and non-virtual options. But the biggest thing that comes out of this is building a comprehensive internship program for students that down the road, the vision for down the road a couple years becomes a graduation requirement where students leave here with internship experience. So we're building inroads around that area. Right now, I'm in the midst of setting up meetings with Mass Higher, Bridgewater State, Massasoit, and the Metro South Regional Chamber of Commerce to get this bank of internship opportunities for students, because you could have students that want to do an internship, but if there's not an opportunity or an opening, that's not going to happen. And so what we need to do is make that an attractive offer for businesses as well. So that, along with, at the bottom you'll see a new schedule. We're playing with our schedule, and that comes with the virtual piece, but we need to play with that schedule to make sure that we can schedule those opportunities for students to leave the building to go on those internships, because it's in nobody's interest to have a student do an internship for an hour or 2 hours a day or 4 hours a week. Businesses aren't going to have them do much more than file. There's no reason for them to do that, and students aren't going to get a good opportunity, and so it becomes useless. So we're looking at how we can do that in a more meaningful way. That has to do with extending more on our MyCap program that we do through the state, which is my college and academic career planning. It's not about college and career readiness, it's about career readiness for when they leave. Some careers require college, some don't. Some require trade school training, some don't. So we're really focusing on that with our system of teaching and learning, and the idea of virtual versus non-virtual really offers us some opportunities that way with what we've seen that we're capable of doing. The safe and secure school environments, you've heard it, we're doing more training, we're going to be doing some tabletop things. Basically, that's a district thing that we're all going to participate in together, so we make sure we're all on the same page and students are safe in our schools. Community engagement. You may have heard that the high school, particularly me, likes to communicate, but again, we're trying to tighten that up, or I'm trying to tighten that up, but I'm trying to expand it, because one of the things when you talk about what came out of COVID is having kind of open forums with senior parents about, as we came to the end of the year, and letting people throw things out there. I want to look to holding more open forums, so to speak, with parents, and Zoom allows me to do this. So those will be more of a virtual thing, so more students can, or more parents can attend them at different hours or in the evening, because we can communicate a lot, but even with a lot of communication, sometimes we don't hit the topics that people want to talk about or that interest them. So if all it takes is a half hour, 40-minute, even an hour meeting on a weeknight, once a month or so, for somebody to say something that they're thinking about or that's on their mind, that's helpful. And that allows everybody to have a voice at the table. So that, along with just basically communications to improve access to our school, or visual access to our school. There are a lot of great things going on at the high school, so we want to make sure that we continue to push that out there. And that's pretty much the quick down and dirty, instead of a video or a 20-minute talk.
Questions, anyone? Chris?
So, more of a comment. The bullet that you have around kind of getting students, to the extent possible, involved in the community, right? Whether it's in businesses or community groups, and exploring opportunities for joint projects or things like that. I really love that concept. You know, the communication is good. You can push stuff out, right? But getting people involved, that's the magic stuff to really kind of build some momentum in terms of some of this. So I know you got to start small, like you said. I like the way you described it. Push yourself out and then kind of figure out how it works. But you know, in looking at all the plans, that's the stuff. If we can get students, you know, whether it's involved with a business project or an opportunity in the community, that's the stuff that's going to bridge the gap that I think sometimes we miss with, you know, we can show. Your videos are spectacular. That is great. You can show videos, but it's different, right? You just
Guy knows how to get to somebody, doesn't he?
you can't feel it. You can't touch it. You can't really embody it. So to the extent, you know, whether it's you can play with that a little bit, maybe with some of your colleagues, see how some of that works. That would be really neat to try and get that real engagement built with the community.
That's actually, I do want to reach out to them. That's something that our clubs may be able to do and assist us with, like Key Club, Student Council, things like that, because we also have a movement going on in the school starting next year that, you know, without talking about it for 20 minutes, that we're looking at how we get students involved earlier. Because all your research shows that the more attached a student is to the school, the more successful that student is. So freshmen come here and they're trying to keep their head above water. They're treading water, so we don't see a lot of involvement in our clubs and activities from freshmen. It starts to pick up sophomore year. Well, We just lost that year because of COVID. So we've got some things planned for next year that we're trying to boost that and get students involved earlier. So with club participation higher, we'll be able to reach out to the community. And I'm going to be inviting the community in to talk to them face to face so we can do some of those things. So thank you for that.
Chris?
Chris, could you give us an example of how the mindfulness component of the class, or how is it going to be implemented?
So we started implementing it before by having faculty members that were comfortable with it using it, run some PD sessions with the rest of the faculty or a smaller group. And we're trying to grow it to all faculty so that they use it. And we noticed people using it before tests, people using it just at the beginning of class. I mean, if you think about it, with the current schedule that we're under, and hopefully not so much with the ones we're moving to, but a student goes to class, they get out of class, so the class wraps up, they maybe snap a picture of the agenda or the homework on the board, they pack their stuff up, they run out into the hallway, they go to the locker, they talk to this friend, talk to that friend, run to the next class, put their stuff down, there's already a go activity, they got to check out the agenda. They never get to breathe. And so if classes can just stop for 2 minutes in the beginning. I know we have time on learning and everything, but it's not that. 2 minutes is not going to matter. And just get students to relax and stop. We're finding that students do better in class. They're more relaxed, they participate more. So those mindful minute pieces, and sometimes people confuse it with SEL. It is part of SEL, but it's not the whole umbrella of SEL. It's more of targeted things. You can call them meditations, you can call them deep breathing, where you just step back a moment and you center yourself and you calm down and you're able to better perform.
I'm wondering if you will be implementing any outside resources that specialize in it. You know what I mean? Other than just
We use Calm Classroom and things like that. That's what we've used so far. That's what's worked for us. One of the things that I'd like to commend some teachers for that weren't as comfortable doing that, we actually had our adjustment counselors and some of our counselors record the mindful minute, because if you're up there, I mean, it's like anytime you're teaching anything, if you're not in it, you're not selling it. And so if you have a teacher that's nervous and doesn't like the sound of their voice or is uncomfortable doing it, the students aren't going to relax. You're going to miss the magic, so to speak, of the mindful moment. So we had our counselors record their voices, and the teacher would hit play, everybody get all set, and then you had somebody else doing it, so the kids experienced that. So the faculty's really getting together on that, and right now with those resources, we're good. And there's plenty of open resource stuff and free stuff on the web. So
yeah, in terms of professional development for the staff,
we're doing that with the staff that are successful. One of the first PDs that we did had to do with self-care this year with staff, and so we had an adjustment counselor and a classroom teacher run the staff through different strategies that they could use, and ran a 40-minute PD on it. Where they had them doing different strategies, gave them strategies that they could take away and use for themselves, but are also transferable to the classroom. So we'll continue that model as well.
It'd be great to see whoever, spends the time, honing their skills, maybe it could be translated into the athletic field too,
Absolutely, yeah.
Dawn?
Thank you. Thank you for the community engagement piece. It's fantastic. And thank you for the Zooms that you've offered. I know the senior parents have taken advantage of it. My question is specific to the school improvement plan, and it looks like you had a lot of parent involvement here. So I'll ask the same question I did of the other schools. What is the feedback or input you hear from parents in regards to the council?
So the list of names there are the people that signed up for it, but not so much attended. And plus, I did cancel meetings. We had 2 meetings this year. So I did have parent input as we were going, but the 2 biggest things that the parents liked when I brought this to the school council at this last meeting to have it approved, they really liked the internship piece and where we're heading with the internship piece as far as reaching students that way. And the other piece that stood out, which was interesting to me anyways, the ELL piece and that packet that we're all going to work on together as schools to welcome ELL students into the district and kind of give them things to do. They brought up another point. They said, well, why just ELL students? There are people that move in the district that don't know how to access things like town sports and things like that. So that's another thing that I'll be speaking with my fellow principals about.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Nope. Very good. I just want to thank the principals for putting this together, all the parents who support the council. And there's a difference between PTO and council has the task of working with principals on their school improvement plans and participating throughout the course of the year. I just need a motion to accept these officially.
So moved.
Keep in mind, this is a motion to accept the 2021-22 school year improvement plans as presented this evening. Discussion. All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys, and thanks the committee for supporting that.
Okay. We have a request from Nadine Doucette.
George, do you want to read it? You have the request, Bob.
Per our conversation, I'd like to dispose of a 60-quart standing mixer at Conley Elementary School. We received a new stand mixer through the Hobart Equipment Grant sponsored through the School Nutrition Foundation.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. It's a 60-quart mixer. It's probably exhausted itself, and we've received a new one. Yes.
Comment. I read the article in the Express. That's great news.
Yep.
And so forth, so.
She does a fantastic job, and we keep getting things.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Thank
See
you.
you guys. Thank you, folks. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Any other discussion before we vote this surplus? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Subcommittee, Whitman Middle School Building Update.
You want to go or you want me to?
It's up to you.
So just very briefly on the building committee, we originally had an OPM date for review August 2nd. I asked MSBA to extend that for us for September for a variety of reasons. One being Ernie transitioning back to full-time employment and a transition from John Tuffy to John Stanbrook as our business manager. MSB approved that, so in light of that, we postponed our meeting on Monday, and it will be rescheduled for June 7th. And we will present information to the committee that will move us forward in the OPM process.
Questions, anyone?
So,
Don?
what's that deadline, the actual September that you moved from August?
So we need to have something to them by June 30th. That's the first piece.
Okay. No, but you requested approval to extend from August to September?
So in September, they will review our request for an OPM.
Okay, we submit to them who we
Correct.
want to
Correct.
hire, and then they have to sign off on it.
We have to also submit the ad and have the ad approved and have other benchmarks approved.
Prior to September.
So we're just
And-
giving ourselves a little extra
Yes,
time to
correct.
hire
Correct.
the right
So
staff, or OPM, yep.
Correct.
Okay.
Anyone else?
No, I'm good.
Policy Subcommittee report?
Thanks, Chair Hayes. So you have a copy of the strategic plan that the committee had approved, and this is what we discussed at the last meeting, where the core values are listed there. And in Policy Subcommittee, we came across Policy AD, which evidently includes core values of the district. So the committee had requested to see these in writing, and it's up to the committee if you would like to review and decide to align the core values as written in the strategic plan with the values in the policy.
Chris?
I just asked Jeff, you see any issues with any of this? No, it's just one formality, right? Yep.
Fred?
And given the timing that we just received this evening, not having a chance to study it, looking at the core values that we had stated prior within Policy AD and looking at the revised wording, I mean, do we want to perhaps change the mission statement or the core values in the strategic plan, to meet what File AD says? I mean, I sort of really like, the line, we support staff initiative, innovation, and professional development. I think that that's a very nice, powerful line. I mean, we're getting caught up in semantics, but, yeah.
The will of the committee, whichever.
Chris?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I looked at the policy and then I just pulled up the website and went to the strategic plan, and so, I appreciate the cleanup because to me, they should match. I don't think we should have a policy and then have a website that says something different, so,
Right.
I think maybe when I don't know, to me, I'd prefer to just clean it up, and then Fred, maybe to your point, when we go through the strategic plan review, then at that point, if we want to change them, we change them, but to me, this is just housekeeping. We shouldn't have a policy in one section of the website that says one thing, and then a strategic plan on the other side of the website that says something different. So, to me, I'd make the motion to accept the changes as presented.
A motion to do what, Chris?
To accept the changes as presented.
Second it, further discussion?
Who seconded?
Chris seconded. No further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Boyce.
I know we're getting ready to adjourn. I didn't want to come to the party late, and you had a very nice formal thing earlier. You know, the cat wanted to wish you well. But
did the cat make the video?
No, the cat picked out something for Mr. Higgs. She knows, she always knows. If it's not Costco, check the TV garden, I might be having. She knows. But for 400 days, I think that's what everyone's been measuring, she and I have been getting up every morning, 5 days a week, doing our work, Monday through Friday. I got asked today about going back to my regular tour once we open the gym day of Sunday through Thursday, and I absolutely love it. Just, to me, that's always been my thing. Well, you've always been your thing. From the day I walked in here and even knowing you before. I could say a lot of the things that were repeated, but Pretty Kitty picked this shirt out today. Now, it's brand new, because like my small Costco at home, I also have a small Bruins Pro Shop. But it's a former player, so, you know, I'm a conservative. I go down the market. You have been the best goaltender to us. This guy brought us a cup. You've done this pretty much the same with us. I couldn't go without saying something, but I couldn't really crash the formal party. I like being a little bit late. It has some cat hair on it. I specifically left it there. I hope you enjoy it. It's a 2X, so maybe a couple grandkids can get it in there at the same time. I don't know. But this is for you, young man.
Mr. Boyce, you may not be right.
But ask for it, so, you don't use it.
I'd entertain a motion
It would be my honor to motion to adjourn your last committee meeting.
All those in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.